On today's episode of Wausau Woodworking, I'm going to be making a pistachio bowl out of recycled lumber. So I started with some old pine. This is old growth pine. The rings are very tight on this. It's from an old door that we no longer needed, and I held on to it for many years, and now I've decided to use this to make the bowl. Now that I got it cut to width, I'm going to cut the pieces into the width of the outer bowl. And I'm also going to make some for the inner bowl, but I'm not going to show that. And then I'm going to take them over to the planer and get them all cleaned up to get that old paint off. In order to make this project a little easier, what I've done is I've already decided to cut out most of the inner portion of the bowl so that the CNC doesn't have to cut it all. So I've taken one piece, and now I'm going to make an outline on the other pieces with the blue Sharpie, and then take it to the bandsaw. And here on the bandsaw, I'm going to cut that piece out. This will save a lot of time and make the project go a little faster than it would if I hadn't have done this. So just following the line, it doesn't take very long to do each piece, and of course I follow up with all the others. So now I've roughly cut out the bowl just to make it easier when I hog it out with the CNC. And now it's time to glue these blocks up. So I'm going to be using Gorilla Glue. It's actually Gorilla Glue, polyurethane glue, which does really well, and it's waterproof. So that's an important thing to remember. So now it's time to take those pieces and put them on some pipe clamps. I take the pipe clamps and I open them up and I rotate each piece forward so that the side is facing up, and this will make it easier to put the Gorilla Glue, the polyurethane glue, which is waterproof, all over it. And once I have that spread out all over it, I will then take an old hotel key card and use it to spread everything around. You could also use an old credit card, but just make sure it's not one that you ever want to use again. While you can clean it up, it's not going to work well after that. Now, rotating them forward, I put them together and run the clamps and tighten everything up. In order for the block of wood to be held down on the CNC table, I need to make a lip around the side that the clamps can hold on to. That way they're out of the way of the bit when I'm cutting everything out. So I run it through the table saw for the inner and outer, and then I trim off that piece, and now you can see what that lip's going to look like. And then next thing you know, I'm finished, and it's ready to go over to the CNC to be tightened down to the table. Now that I'm on the CNC, you can see how the clamps hold it down, and using a cove box bit, I actually take it down step by step, and you can see for a little bit it looks like I'm just cutting air, but eventually it runs down the side, providing a nice rounded edge on the inside, which makes it easy to get the nuts out. And then before you know it, it's cut the whole inside, and then I switch over to a 1/2 inch straight bit, and I use it to cut the pocket in the middle that will be there so that the inner bowl can recess and basically holds it in the center. And then that bit is also used to run around the outside to define the edge of the bowl that I will end up taking over to the bandsaw to actually cut. Here we are at the bandsaw. Now I'm just running it right along the edge, maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so outside of that, and this will eventually go to the belt sander to smooth it all up and really give it define the edge of the bowl. So with that, I can take the scrap off and run it over to the sander and sand that outside edge down. And I'm not going to show all this because it's quite boring, but basically it only takes a couple minutes to get it all cleaned up. Hey, let's not forget about that inner bowl. This is the one the pistachios will actually sit in. And so using the same cove box bit, I end up cutting the inside of that, and then it's off to the table saw. I have to cut the bottom edge, and so I really create a square on the bottom, and that will actually fit into the outer bowl that you can see in the background. And once that gets complete, then I'll flip it down on its side and lower the blade, and now cut that excess material off. And so once through, you can see how that works. And then I'll end up third, fourth, and cut's done, and then you can see it fits right in. So one of the issues that now I've gotten it together is I noticed that I think there was a little bit too much force used on the bit, and it may have had some issues, but this is not the same thickness as this. In fact, this is right at 3/8 of an inch, which is where it was supposed to have been, and this is more at 7/16. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to score a line around the edge. I'm just going to take it on the table saw, trim that up, and then on the sander round it off to get it more in line. Everything else seems to appear just fine, and then once I get that done, then I will soak it in wok oil to finish it, and probably apply a just some more wok oil. And but in addition, I'm going to end up rounding over the edges here so there's nothing sharp, and that'll make it look a lot nicer. So it's off to score it here. So now I'm taking a pair of dividers, and I'm actually scoring into the wood the thickness I need. And on two sides it was thicker than it should have been. Then I take a pencil to start mark that. Run it through the table saw on both sides, and that cleans it up. The problem was the CNC had a loose bolt on one side of the carriage, and it was causing this error. Didn't actually find this out until about a month later, and once I fixed that, it all worked better. So here I'm at the router table. I'm just going to round over that edge on the outside, and then I'm going to round over the edge on the inside, and makes it all nice and smooth. And then don't forget about that little one that goes on the inside. And once that's finished, it's just a matter of sanding, and it's ready for branding. So my projects always like to brand it with my initials and the year. This brand actually allows you to change the dates out, which is good because I've been using this now for over 20 years, and it works really well. So here's the final product. You can see you put the pistachios on the inside and take that shells and drop them on the outside, and it keeps things all nice and neat. So I hope you've liked this episode of Wausau Woodworking, and subscribe today if you thought this was a worthwhile video, and give it a thumbs up while you're at it. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and see you next time on Wausau Woodworking.